Good morning, everyone. Oh. Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to another bite-sized Buhl. My name is Carissa Sidor and I am the producer in the Buhl Planetarium at the Carnegie Science Center. And today we're going to take a quick look at some things that we're going to be able to see in the evening sky tonight, if it's going to be clear. Or over the next few nights, you'll be able to see these as well, because there's something really exciting going on in the Southwest right now. So we're going to take a look at our planetarium software. We're going to take a look at Digistar today. And we are facing southwest. And you can see it is just after sunset. So we still have a little bit of glow in the sky from our sun that is going down. But you are going to be able to see three pretty bright objects, or at least three very noticeable objects, all in a line in our southwestern sky right after sunset. So we can see them right here. We've got these three objects all in a line. Now, the first one you're going to see, it's a little hard to tell with the digital software. It's going to be very apparent in the real sky. This object down here on the bottom is going to be the brightest of those three. And we are able to see what these are planets. We have three planets that we can see. So the brightest of the three might be a little surprising because it is not the largest planet, but it is very, very reflective. And it's also relatively closer to us, which allows us to see a lot more of that direct light that's reflected from it. So we are able to see the planet Venus in our early evening sky. Now, here we can see this is a great view of Venus. Venus is the brightest planet that we're able to see. And not because of how big it is, but actually because it's covered in clouds. In fact, I'm going to see if we can see those clouds a little bit better. There we go. So I've gotten rid of all of that direct sunlight and we're lighting up Venus from behind right now. But we can see Venus is covered in these dense clouds. It has a dense carbon dioxide atmosphere, and it is every day is a cloudy day on Venus. In fact, it reflects about 70% of the sunlight that hits it. So that makes it brilliantly bright in our evening and early morning skies, depending on which side of the sun it appears on. So we can see Venus very, very brightly. However, right now, this is not actually what we see of Venus, because Venus is mostly in shadow. So our view of Venus actually looks like this. And you may notice it's almost not even visible because we are seeing Venus in a very thin crescent phase right now. So Venus appears to go through phases just like our moon does. Now, our moon goes through phases because it orbits the Earth, and we see the moon illuminated from different angles by the sun. And sometimes that side is facing us. When we have a full moon, we see the full illuminated disk. Sometimes it's being lit from behind and we see a new moon and we don't see any of it illuminated. So same thing kind of happens with Venus, except Venus, of course, is not orbiting the Earth. It is orbiting the sun. But Venus is closer to the sun than we are. So we actually see it go through these phases as it makes its way around the sun. And right now, it's kind of moving in front of the sun or in between the Earth and the sun. So we're going to see Venus's backside. We're not going to see that illuminated side. And this thin crescent is all of the light that we're seeing right now in our sky, which is incredible considering how bright it still is. That really does not affect how bright we see Venus because it just reflects that much light. So it's always really amazing to see, even when Venus is in this thin of a crescent phase, how bright it still is in our evening skies. It's going to look like almost an airplane headlights shining straight at your eyes. That's how bright Venus can be. We actually can sometimes see Venus during the daytime as well. That's how bright it is. It's tricky and you have to know exactly where to look, but it is possible to see Venus while the sun is up, which also speaks to just how bright it is. All right, so we have that planet Venus, the brightest of those three objects. And to see the other two a little bit better, we're going to go forward in time just a bit here and let our sun set and let the sky get a little bit darker. We'll start to see other stars coming out and we'll get to see these other objects in our sky. So once it gets a little bit darker around 6 p.m., as it is approaching winter, we are seeing it get darker a little earlier each night, but we can see these other planets. So we'll talk about, we'll just go in order here in the line. So we'll talk about the middle one right here, the middle planet that we're able to see. So this is going to be not as bright as the other two, but you're still able to see it with the unaided eye. So meaning you don't need binoculars or a telescope to see it. You'll be able to just look up there and there it will be. So this happens to be the planet Saturn. So we can see Saturn in our evening sky. Let's grow Saturn a little bit and see what there is to find. Saturn is always very exciting to look at in our evening sky. We can see it now. Saturn definitely does benefit from if you look at it with a telescope, because then you will be able to see its rings. So unfortunately, our human eyes cannot see the rings without any help, but they are there. And we'll take a closer look at those rings in a minute as well. Saturn is the second largest planet in our solar system, so it's pretty big and also very reflective, a gas giant, so it's pretty much all clouds, but it's not as bright because it is much, much further away from us than Venus. So we see it a little bit dimmer in the sky. So Saturn is the second planet we can see. Let's put up some of our labels here just so we have them. So the third planet that we can see, this one right here, is going to be kind of the middle one in brightness. It's definitely a lot brighter. It is actually the second brightest planet, but it is the first largest planet in our solar system. So we have the largest planet in our solar system, which is the planet Jupiter. We can see Jupiter in our evening sky right now as well. We got a great view of Jupiter. Wow, and at 6 o'clock we have the great red spot facing us, which is really exciting. We'll take a closer look at that in a moment too. But we have a magnificent view of this gas giant. Again, largest planet in our solar system. All the planets in our solar system could fit inside Jupiter with room to spare. That is how large it is. But we don't have to settle just for this view from Earth. So we're actually going to take off from the Earth and we're going to visit these places today. We're going to take a little look at an up close look at these things that we can actually see in the night sky. So we are going to take flight here. We're going to lift off from the Earth. And we are going to turn off our time. And you know what? Let's get everything facing us again. Let's get the Earth in the center here. There we go. So we can see our beautiful home planet. And we are going to be able to explore a lot more. So we can see our beautiful home planet and we can see lots of great things from here, right? But a lot of what we've observed in our night sky, we pretty much observe from here on Earth. So in order to get a better view and a bigger view of everything, we're going to head out and away. Now, I want to take a look at, first of all, we can see our closest neighbor right there. We can see our moon come into view. You see the moon, it's kind of behind the Earth right now, but it'll be coming up on the other side in just a second. So our moon is our closest neighbor. And this white line here is going to show us the orbit of our moon as it goes around the Earth. So this is the path that the moon takes around the Earth. It's pretty close to us. The moon lives about 240,000 miles away on average. It sounds really far, but it's actually very, very close. But as we swing around here, we'll see our sun. And as we get further away, we're going to start to see our solar system. So let's turn on the orbits of our planets and let the rest of the solar system show itself to us. So we get an overall view here. We can see these lines that show us the path the planets take. And here we can see those inner planets. And as we get further away, the outer planets will come into view as well. So the Earth is the third planet from the sun. And from here, we get a really good view of where Venus is. So, can anyone see Venus right now? Venus is the second planet from the sun. So we can see, you can see it right here, that yellow line, that is our planet Venus. And you can see how it right now is kind of in between the Earth and the sun. And that shows us why we are only seeing very little of Venus illuminated when we see it in our night sky from Earth. We're seeing just this thin slice that is illuminated for us. So let's see if we can get a closer look. We're going to fly to Venus first because it is closest on our journey here. Let's take a look at this beautiful cloudy planet. So as I mentioned, every day is a cloudy day on Venus, and we can see that atmosphere, that thick, dense atmosphere that makes Venus a very, very interesting place. Now, Venus is a rocky planet, so like the Earth, it has a solid surface, but we can't actually see the surface just by looking at it with our eyes. Fortunately, we have sent space probe robotic missions out in our solar system, some of them to explore the planet Venus. And they're able to look through, we don't want to grow it, we want to turn off those clouds. They're able to peer through those clouds on Venus and take a look at the surface beneath it. What we found was Venus is a very, very hot planet. And it also has a very volcanic past to it. So we can see lots of evidence of lava flows and volcanoes on Venus. So there is a lot of kind of hostile environment on this planet. It's very, very interesting to learn about. Venus is also the hottest planet in our solar system, 900 degrees Fahrenheit, day and night on Venus. But from above, we can see those beautiful clouds. And again, Venus is a very hostile planet, probably not a place where we're going to land humans. However, there's potential to explore the upper atmosphere and the tops of those clouds where weather is a lot more mild and a lot more moderate. So maybe exploring Venus could be looking at its clouds instead of its surface, which is a really exciting kind of opportunity. So, great view of our brightest planet there. Let's take a look at what else we have in our sky. So again, we have our inner solar system. We've got our inner planets. But we're going to head out towards the outer solar system, and we're going to take a look at and see if we can find Jupiter and Saturn. They are much, much further away, which again also does affect how brightly we see them, but we can see Jupiter and Saturn from here. So we'll go to Jupiter first. It's a little bit closer. So Jupiter is that white orbit that we're looking at. Let's get, there we go. So we'll highlight Jupiter and let's make our way there. Largest planet in our solar system. I always love visiting Jupiter because it's such an interesting planet. It's one of my favorites. So we can see, again, up close and personal here, this colorful planet. We can also get a look at its rings. That's right, Jupiter has rings, not quite as bright as Saturn, but they are there. In fact, all of the gas giants have rings. But here we can get a look at those, but also we're taking a look at Jupiter's atmosphere. This beautiful gas giant, very dynamic planet, lots of interesting weather in these clouds. All those swirling clouds are different storms that are constantly roiling around in that atmosphere. And here we can see the most famous of them all, the Great Red Spot. Very creative name. This is an enormous storm, larger than the entire planet Earth. So you could fit the whole planet, our whole planet, inside of this storm, which is essentially like a giant hurricane. And it's been raging on Jupiter for at least 400 years. As long as we've had tools to look at it, it has been there. Now, it has actually shrunk over time. It used to be as wide as about 3 Earths. So it's also very interesting to watch this weather change on Jupiter and see kind of the effects that occur over time. Very beautiful, very colorful planet. Jupiter also has something else that you might be able to see for yourself in the night sky. It's a great object to look for if you have just a set of binoculars. So you don't need a telescope to see things in the night sky. If you just have binoculars, that's good too. But you might be able to see Jupiter's 4 largest moons. Here they are. These are the Galilean moons, named after Galileo, who was the first person to see them. But we can see these 4 large moons, and they're going to appear kind of like little stars on either side of Jupiter. Let's turn those on one more time, because you'll be able to see them edge on. We'll see them as they are lined up side by side, and they'll look like 4 little dots in a line around Jupiter. So just like our planets that we'll see in the night sky look like 3 dots in a row, you'll see 4 dots in a row when you look at the Galilean moons. Always so cool to see those through binoculars. So I highly recommend it. All right, so we have one more planet to visit today. So let's head back out and go even further away from our sun. We got to go far out to reach our next destination, the planet Saturn, the 2nd largest planet in our solar system, and definitely a crowd favorite. So let's head there. Saturn, of course, famous for its beautiful rings that surround the planet. We get a great view of them here as we fly in. Now we can also take a look at one of Saturn's most underrated features. Here at the very top, we'll get a close-up view here of this vortex at Saturn's North Pole. You'll notice this is actually a storm, and it has sides to it. It has 6 sides. This is a hexagon-shaped storm that's at the North Pole of Saturn, which is affected by different kind of jet streams and wind pathways that we see in Saturn's atmosphere. That's always a very interesting feature, because usually we see swirling storms as round or oval shaped. So it's very unusual that we find something that has those 6 distinct sides to it. So we'll swivel around here and get a different view of Saturn. Another gas giant, 2nd largest, so it's not quite as large as Jupiter, but it is made of clouds and gas, no solid surface here. But we can take a close-up look at Saturn's rings. I think that's really why we flew here today. Now, Saturn's rings might look solid, but they are not. They're made of pieces of rock and ice and dust that are all in orbit around Saturn. And if we get a closer view here, we'll fly down and we'll fly into those rings. So let's see what we can see. There we can see the particles that make up Saturn's rings. Now, Saturn's rings are very, very wide, but they are only about 30 feet thick. If you've ever been into our planetarium at the Science Center, that's about from the floor to the ceiling of that room. 30 feet, that's it. So it's a very, very thin line that surrounds Saturn, but these pieces are very reflective, which is why we're able to see them so well. But the fact that they aren't solid is why we see kind of those different stripes in the rings, different densities and collections of these different materials. You might even spot some gaps in the rings in places. But Saturn's rings, definitely a great view if you have a telescope. You may be able to see them in binoculars, but Saturn is very far away, so it can be a little trickier to see it without a telescope. But definitely worth trying, definitely worth looking for. All right, so we're going to return back to Earth here, because we have been able to see some really cool things in our evening sky. Those 3 planets, again, you're going to be able to see those not just tonight if it's cloudy, But you're going to be able to see them for the next few weeks. At least Saturn and Jupiter will be able to see them quite a while longer as well. But we are going to make our way back to Earth. And as we arrive here, that is where we shall end things. So I thank you all so much for joining us for today's bite-sized Buhl. I hope you had fun exploring our planets. Go outside and look for them in the night sky for yourself. Come to the planetarium at the Science Center and let us know what you're able to see. And we might be able to show you a whole lot more. So thank you all for joining us today. Have a great day.